welcome to Taking the Myth, your topical, skeptical discussion show. I'm Stephen Knight, and joining me is the ghost of Iram Ramzan.
Hello.
Stole your off-air joke there, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Taking full credit. So
It's cultural appropriation.
So you basically you had AIDS. Now you don't have AIDS. It's kind of like Philadelphia, but with a happier ending, isn't it?
I've never had AIDS. Can people stop sending me, get well wishes, please?
You can quote you on that, can we? I've never had AIDS, Iram Ramzan.
Yes, end quote.
All right. Well, talking of people sending us stuff, I'm going to try and make the show a little bit more interactive, be a little less lazy. So I've been encouraging people to tweet along or send us questions. So if you're listening now and you're around a smartphone and you have some comments about what we're saying, or you want to suggest some topics or questions for the next episode, if you use the hashtag TTMyth, that's the best way to do it, and we'll definitely find them. I think I thought about using TTM, and that's just flooded with other stuff. Taking the Myth's just far too long to type out. Who's got time for that? So TT Myth and Iram and I shall find your questions and mock them mercilessly on...
And ignore them.
And ignore them. That's an option. Not ruling that out. So there you have it. What else? Notice board items. My videos are now online for the National Secular Society's Healthcare and Secularism Conference, which was absolutely fascinating. Lots of interesting stuff in there, from the legal minefield that is circumcision. It was covered from an ethical perspective as well. We had a really interesting discussion on abortion rights, two great discussions on assisted dying, so all really positive and happy stuff to get you into the festive spirit. But in all seriousness, they're really, really interesting, so I suggest you can find them on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/gspellchecker. So what's new with you, Iram? Apart from not dying of AIDS.
Apart from not dying from AIDS, what can I say? I had to just go through my Twitter mentions, be trolled by Dilly Hussein. That was quite fun. If you don't know who Dilly Hussein is, he's editor or co-editor of
like
Five Pillocks.
Like his mother, I completely forgot he existed, so...
Yeah, every now and then he pops up on my mentions. I mean, he likes to think that he's a great journalist when he's not. He calls me a disgrace to journalism, which is rich coming from him. This is someone who not that long ago was getting into a debate in relation to a discussion that was on TV, and it was about an Islamic State or a caliphate, and he didn't like the fact that there was a liberal Muslim woman on there, and he found her on Twitter and started calling her things like pisshead, really derogatory things about being liberal, because being liberal is really bad.
For our American audience, pisshead just means drunk or wino.
Yeah. Oh, wasted,
dude. Piss just means angry in America, doesn't it? I was pissed. I was so pissed, and I'm thinking.
Oh no, this is different. Yeah, not that kind of pissed. Different kind of pissed. Yeah, he just didn't like that. He called her fat as well, because when you've lost all other arguments, just resort to name calling. Yeah, just call someone. You'll get him. And he also said very derogatory things about Ahmadi Muslims, because he doesn't regard them as legitimate Muslims. And,
standard.
He said, oh, I know monkeys who have more of a legitimate claim to Islam than Ahmadis.
Wow.
Claimed he was sorry afterwards, but he's not really, I don't think he's been on any mainstream channels since then, because he was exposed by BBC journalist John Ware, who did a programme, and he featured in it, and he didn't come out of that looking so well. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm a disgrace to journalism, then I'd rather be that than Dilly Hussein.
What a silly dilly.
What a silly dilly indeed.
Huh? Sorry, what was that?
I said, what a silly dilly indeed.
I thought you asked me about meeting Ricky Gervais. I thought you just said how was meeting Ricky Gervais.
Oh, you met Ricky Gervais? I had no idea.
Well, since you asked, Iram, I was on Ricky Gervais.
Who is Ricky Gervais, by the way? I don't think I've heard of him.
Ricky is many things to many people. My pal Ricky G. Fuck me, I've regressed into Brent. That's strange. Yeah, so I got invited up to London, down to London. See, geography is not my strong point. To be on Ricky Gervais's Deadly Serious radio show, which was an experience. Gervais is I've always been a huge fan of his. I'm one of them annoying people that has, best friends who can spend an entire evening speaking in office quotes. So it's strange because I kind of started one of the reasons I started my Twitter account is to take the piss out of religion, was because I saw him do it in his stand-up, and I thought that's incredible, because I always used to make fun of religion in private. People would say, you have to respect beliefs, things like that. I was always a little bit wary of doing it in public to offend people. And then when I saw him do it, not only was it hilarious, it was right. And it made me think, well, this is actually quite a necessary thing to do if you care about challenging ideas. So it's just strange how it's kind of come full circle in a way. I started my Twitter activities inspired by his humour and his work, and then I've ended up on his radio show because of it. So I'm 34, and I feel like I've peaked too early now. I don't know where I go from here.
Does that make you the poor man's Ricky Gervais then?
I think so. It might do. I mean, I don't know what to do. I might as well just pack it all in and go and live on, a farm or something. There's nowhere else to go from here, is there?
Well, you met Ricky Gervais.
Mm-hmm.
I met Enrique.
Who's that?
I went to an Enrique Iglesias. I went to a concert in Manchester. And there he was, the pop god himself.
Wait, you mean
the Latino?
You mean you bought a ticket and observed him from the stage?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that... You see, okay, so...
I touched him as well. I touched him.
How long before the security guards ripped you off him?
About 5 seconds, but...
So I recorded an episode with Gervais. We spoke about a lot, and the funny thing is, he's dead chilled, dead relaxed. He's kind of he's somebody who found his success late in life, so he already had life experiences and a good head on his shoulder. So he doesn't exude this kind of rich prick. I can't think of a better way to say it. He just seems like a nice, normal, everyday bloke. It kind of felt like just chilling with a pal down the pub. You know what I mean? I didn't have time to get nervous, if that makes sense. So
if he found fame later in life, and you say you've peaked, what does that mean? You're going to retire very soon?
Oh, well, the thing is, I've not knocked out an Emmy Award-winning sitcom, so that's where I'm going wrong.
Yeah, but I can't see you in a sitcom, though. So
yeah,
I think you either need to go for something else or just call it a day.
Put a shotgun in my mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. This got very dark within 15 minutes, didn't it? Let's talk about AIDS again. Yeah, so at some point this conversation with Gervais will be released, and I'll make sure I share it around, so keep an eye out for that. So I wanted to speak about Aisia Bibi, but this is something I've been aware of for years, and I never thought I'd see an end to it. And it seems like we've finally got a happy resolution of sorts. And I don't know if you want to maybe talk a little bit about who this woman is and what she got in trouble for in Pakistan.
Yeah, so Aisia Bibi is mother of 5, and she's a Christian woman who was accused of blasphemy. And this was supposedly during a conversation that took place between her and a group of Muslims over a cup of water or something. She apparently insulted the Prophet Muhammad, and then charges were brought against her, and that was about 8 or 9 years ago. And since then, she's just been languishing in jail because she was given the death sentence. And then finally, a couple of weeks ago, she was acquitted of blasphemy charges. And after that, the whole country erupted in riots. All the religious extremists were holding cities to ransom, just blocking roads and, setting shit on fire, standard kind of stuff. Her lawyer, Saiful Malook, he had to leave the country because he was in danger. He was declared also a blasphemer. And that meant that despite the fact that Aisia Bibi was innocent, she her fate was still unclear. Nobody knew what was going to happen to her, and she wasn't freed immediately. But since then, I think she apparently has been released, and a few countries have offered her asylum. I think the Netherlands was one of them, and apparently Germany has become one of the latest. Canada, I believe, also has offered her asylum. But Britain hasn't.
Yeah, so that was a big issue. I mean, she's been released, obviously, but this not a day too soon. I can't believe how long this has gone on, and she was in solitary confinement for the duration of her stay in what I can't imagine to be a very nice Pakistan jail. But we have a secondary issue of here. I mean, my initial instinct upon her release was fly her here immediately. Like, this is surely why this country has an asylum process. Surely she would be the most legitimate candidate you can think of, a persecuted Christian woman in a foreign country. And apparently, so I'm told time and time again, Iram, we're a Christian country. Surely we should help one of the flock.
I was just going to mention that because, I mean, I know essentially we behave more like a secular country. We're still, technically a Christian country. So you'd think if we are still technically a Christian country, we should be offering asylum to Christians who are fleeing persecution.
Yes.
So what's happened to that?
Well, we'll have to. This has turned into a quiz at this point. We'll have to see if you can, offer up some sort of answer as to why this is the case. But apparently, if we were to bring her to the UK, it would pose a security threat. Well, why would that be, do you think?
Well, is it because the airports are really busy and flights never run on time or arrive? Is it the train delays?
Yeah.
Is it the weather?
She spent how many years in a Pakistani jail cell, but an hour in a terminal at Heathrow, and that's it. She'd be begging to go back, wouldn't she?
Listen, bloody being squashed into the Central Line in London is almost like torture, if I'm honest with you.
It's just adding insult to injury, isn't it?
It is.
So, no, it was alluded to the fact that because of community cohesion in this country, it would be best not to have her here. In other words, we may upset certain sections of the Muslim community. And the implication was that they could react in a way that could jeopardize security. So we're talking about violence and attacks here, really, aren't we, when you get down to it?
I mean, if that is incredibly insulting. I mean,
yes.
if anything is Islamophobic, and I don't really use that word, if anything is Islamophobic, then isn't the insinuation that Muslims are going to erupt into protests and start bloody killing people because of the presence of someone they don't like, or of somebody who's a supposed blasphemer? I mean, we hear so many times from Muslim people that, we're not terrorists, we're law-abiding citizens like everyone else, but
don't piss us off, or we'll fuck you up.
Yeah, so that's how Muslims have been portrayed, and that's actually really insulting to them as well. And if anything, that's actually made the situation worse. I mean, in that statement about bloody community cohesion or whatever, you've actually made the situation worse. They've portrayed a certain community in the UK as just being violent.
Yeah.
And from what I can see, a lot of people, a lot of British Muslims have actually come out in support of Aisia Bibi and said, this is horrific. She should be offered asylum. She didn't deserve this. And somebody on Facebook as well, on a friend's timeline, was saying that there have been protests of support in Bradford. So protests of support, not opposition.
Oh, really?
But no one. Yeah,
sorry,
that's
that took me aback there for a second. I didn't quite compute what you were telling me.
Yeah.
I heard protest in Bradford and just assumed the worst.
Yeah, so did I, to be fair. That's what they were saying, that a lot of people have come out in support, but no one really wants to. No one has covered that. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I hope it is. But I have noticed some silence from a few people. A few British MPs, Muslim MPs, haven't mentioned this case at all, and yet they're very quick to talk about Israel, Palestine, and various other issues that happen in Pakistan. And yet with this case, there's actually been silence. And then we saw what happened when human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell decided to get involved.
Yeah, poor Tatch. He was petitioning Sadiq Khan via Twitter, the Muslim mayor of London. It's not his official title. He just happens to be a Muslim. Yeah, he's a Pakistani, a person of Pakistani descent who has quite a bit of popularity in Pakistan. He's used his influence in other areas because of that. And Peter Tatchell just basically appealed to him to be more vocal about it. And the funny thing is, this is another example. I think we mentioned this with the grooming gangs in the last episode. It's the case of we've got a real serious topic here which demands attention, and it demands you opine with some principles. It demands that you demonstrate some principles and backbone. Now, that's difficult for people who have no principles or backbone. So, Q Mehdi Hassan, he went straight for Peter Tatchell because it's easier to attack a secondary issue than the primary issue for the reasons I've just mentioned. He accused Peter Tatchell of being a racist for petitioning Sadiq Khan on this topic. And again, it's a case of now we're arguing about whether or not Peter Tatchell is a racist. We're talking about whether or not it's fair to petition Sadiq Khan on this issue. And what we really should be talking about is, can we make a bit more noise for this persecuted woman, please?
This is totally ridiculous. He's mayor of London. He went to bloody Pakistan and India, what was it, earlier this year or last year, and made a big hoo-ha about it. So it's clear he has some sort of influence there. That's all Peter Tatchell was saying. He's not saying,
hey, you, darkie, yeah. Have a word with the other darkies.
Oi, boy, come here. Oh, God, that's going to be taken out of context and then just repeated on loop. So Peter Tatchell, all he was saying was, look, you're the mayor of London. You're an influential figure. And you also have some connections to Pakistan. That's all he was doing. And then you get, idiots like Mehdi Hassan who seem to just, everything's racist to Mehdi. But the funny thing is, a lot of British Pakistanis do have influence in Pakistan or have connections there. Not all of them, but some of them do, especially if they're in political office. Now, Naz Shah, for example, who's MP for Bradford, she went to Pakistan when just before Imran Khan was elected Prime Minister, and she was looking all glamorous because she was meeting the babe that is Khan, and he apparently learned so much about Islamophobia in Britain from her. And then I saw her tweeting about a fundraising dinner for a dam in Pakistan, and yet she's not said anything about the Aisia Bibi case. So I think when you have somebody like that who has connections with Pakistan, who has previously used connections in the country in various cases. So when Samir Shahid was killed in in an honor killing, a girl from Bradford who went over to Pakistan and was murdered there, Naz Shah was very sort of quick to use her political influence, and rightly so. So why is it that on this issue someone like her has been silent? Do you know if Sadiq Khan has actually said anything about the Aisia Bibi case?
I've not seen anything, and it is extraordinary because I understand that our interests can be quite esoteric on some levels. We kind of focused on lines of the way liberalism impacts with religion and religious extremism. So things that get our attention might not necessarily hit the mainstream attention. So you can't always expect prominent figures to opine on it. However, this case is global. It's reported everywhere. It became mainstream news. So there's no way these people can be unaware of it. And once you're aware of it and you don't have an opinion on it in their positions, that's a massive failure of moral clarity as far as I'm concerned. And you have to wonder what the reasons are. Is it because they're scared of upsetting the base? Do they think that the Muslim community may not appreciate them siding with this woman? Are they scared of reprisals if they visit Pakistan, in which case they should probably talk about that anyway? So you just kind of wonder what the motivation is for keeping quiet there, because it seems like a very ethically easy situation to come down on the right side of.
Exactly. And you have something like the Muslim Council of Britain. I don't think, from what I can remember, officially they haven't really said anything about the case, except there was a tweet that they put out a week ago, and I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it was something in relation to a comment that was made about the Aisia Bibi case and how something was either Islamophobic or racist. So it wasn't a direct comment on her case or whether they think she's innocent or whether she should be offered asylum. So they weaseled out of it on that. One of their staff members did say she should be offered asylum, but that didn't come from an official MCB account.
Okay, so it remains to be seen where she is granted asylum. You can almost imagine her having to change her name in some sort of weird witness protection scheme, the way the people are making a big deal of it in terms of security. So we'll be monitoring any updates on that. If you have any thoughts about the Aisia Bibi case, you can send them us via the hashtag TTMyth, TTMyth, if you're in the north of England. TTMyth. What else? Okay, I did want to bring something up which kind of isn't religion based, which is nice, but it kind of transgresses on the idea of freedom of expression as far as I'm concerned, and it caused a lot of outrage, and it ended in some arrests in the UK, and I think maybe a lot of our foreign listeners might struggle to get their heads around why this was considered criminal, or maybe not, and that was the Grenfell effigy hoo-ha. Did you see this? Of course you did.
I did, yes. So this was it during or just before Guy Fawkes Day, November the 5th?
Yeah.
And a group of people decided to burn an effigy of Grenfell Tower. So I don't know if American.
There's a lot of unpacking there. I think we may have lost a lot of people at Guy Fawkes.
Yes. Fireworks. Remember,
gunpowder plot. Look at the gunpowder plot. Some chap, our pal Guy, long time ago in a British galaxy far, far away, tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament. This was known as the gunpowder plot. He actually failed, was apprehended before he managed it. He got tortured.
We celebrate that.
We caught him basically and just tortured the shit out of him. I think he may have been hung, drawn and quartered.
Yeah.
Basically. Very unpleasant. And in order to celebrate this victory, we burn an effigy of this chap. When you start talking about your own culture out loud and you realise how batshit crazy it is.
I've just heard it for the first time out loud and thought, huh. Yeah, but it's it makes more sense than Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So around November we do this, and you make a big Guy Fawkes, it's called. It's basically a scarecrow. You put them on a fire, you burn them. And there's been various other effigies made over the years. So the way this relates to the Grenfell Tower disaster, back in June 2017, there was a tower block in North Kensington that went up in flames. It was an accident. The fire was accidentally started, apparently. I think it may have been a fridge in one of the occupants' rooms, if I remember correctly. If I'm wrong about that, I apologise, but I do know it was an accident. It wasn't an act of arson is what I'm saying. This North Kensington tower block went up in flames. 72 people died. It was horrendous. There's a lot of discussion about the type of cladding used on the exterior of the building. It wasn't particularly fire resistant. May have actually helped the fire spread, in fact. So there's been a lot of reviews about whether that can be used again, where it can be used, should it have been used. This is an ongoing thing. A lot of the families of the victims are involved in campaigning for justice around this issue. So it's a very sensitive issue, especially in that area of London. Now, cut to Guy Fawkes night in 2018, a year or so later after the accident, and there was a video released online of a bunch of people in their garden burning a mock-up, a card mock-up of the Grenfell Tower with people in the windows. And as they burned it, they was providing commentary, doing silly voices, pretending to be the residents, making a few... I think there was a few comments about the inhabitants being Muslim. I'm not quite sure. And it was quite, appalling taste. I actually found it a little bit offensive, and nothing offends me. I joke about AIDS. But
I know it.
I found it offensive, but it's from there it's got a little bit silly, because not only have people the right to find it offensive, it became a criminal investigation. The people involved were arrested. So this is from Sky's News. In the clip, members of the group can be heard laughing and shouting, help me, help me. So they're obviously ventriloquizing the little voices, figures in the windows. As the fire climbs up their effigy, one of the people questions whether they should have put the tower on upside down because the fire started on the 10th floor. One person shouts, jump out the window, while another offers the original fire brigade advice before the scale of the tragedy was understood, saying, stay in your flat. And another voice can then be heard saying, that's what happens when they don't pay their rent. So they're kind of mocking the fact that the flat was known to house a lot of people of low income status, a lot of ethnic minorities. I think the majority of those that perished in there would have been non-white ethnic minorities. So this is bad. It's pretty awful. But my question is, should it be illegal?
Well, I think a few people on Twitter with legal knowledge were saying, they can be done under the Public Order Act.
Yeah. Oh, I've no doubt that there is a law in this country that makes that illegal. I suppose my broader question is, should there be a law in this country that makes that kind of thing a criminal offence?
I mean, that is totally ridiculous. The police were hunting these people down, making them pay for it, and you just think to yourself, as vile as that was, why are we wasting police resources on that when there are people being stabbed left, right, and centre in London and around the country? Stabbing's a massive problem here, and we have so many other pressing concerns, and yet what the police are more concerned about is monitoring supposed hateful content online, or videos mocking the victims of Grenfell Tower. I mean, why is it that we're so quick to, first of all, be outraged about things? Everything's so offensive now. And not only that, we want to shut things down. We want to shut down debates. We want people arrested. We want them taken off stage or no platform for various things. It's ludicrous.
Someone needs to do an analysis of the shelf life of online outrage, because everyone was so angry as if 9/11 had just happened again, and then it dissipates really quickly, and then we're angry about something else very quickly. But I mean, one of the interesting things about this is this offensive material, this illegal video that it's become because of arrest and whatnot. People only really saw it because people who were outraged were sharing it, saying, I'm outraged because of this. So it was the people who were outraged that caused the potential offence, really. They amplified it. They caused it to become a national news story and a police incident. So, I mean, is there some sort of... I mean, if there's laws against uploading that to the internet... See, this is what I don't get my head around. So are they in trouble for burning it, or are they being in trouble for uploading it to the internet? And either way, I think it's ridiculous, but I'd like them to be specific about what the crime is and at what point it became a crime. Because if it became a crime by disseminating this information on the internet, surely people who are then sharing it are culpable in a legal sense. I mean, that's how libel works for a start.
Yeah, and this is what happens. Like in various situations we've seen in the past where, like with Charlie Hebdo, it was a small publication and just became known globally because people were sharing supposedly offensive cartoons published in the magazine. And you just think, if you find it offensive and you think it's horrible, then surely the most logical thing to do is to make sure other people don't see it so that they can't see this horrible, offensive thing. Whereas, in actual fact, by sharing it, you're making sure that more people see this. So, I don't understand what the logic is behind that, really. And I think, was it Momentum on Twitter decided to share the video as well, and how vile it was, and linking it to Tommy Robinson and what she called Katie Hopkins. And you think, what?
Everyone, whenever there's a big outrage, everyone always kind of filters it through their own political lens. So whoever you're angry at the time is responsible for whatever's going on. I find, I can honestly say, for all the grief we've given Tommy Robinson over the last couple of months, I don't think it's got anything to do with the Grenfell Tower effigy or the sentiment of the people responsible for it. It's got nothing to do with Tommy Robinson, as far as I can tell. But 5 people were arrested. I think it actually went up to 6 on suspicion of a public order offence, and they actually handed themselves into a London police station, and they've been released for further investigation. I think they've been bailed or whatever, and a lot of them can't return to their address. They've kind of living in hiding at the minute because they're so frightened for their own safety because of the general hostility of the general public towards them, which I kind of stand the outrage and the anger towards them in a sense, although I never advocate anyone taking any action into their own hands. But I just can't get my head around a country where the police see that, and it's kind of like a secular blasphemy, isn't it? I should be able to burn whatever the fuck I own in my back garden as long as it's not a safety issue. Somebody actually made a good point to me. They made a parallel to poppy burning. A poppy, obviously, huge symbol in the UK of our armed forces. More often than not, it's probably tied to the Second World War, I think. But there's been some convictions over the years of sort of Muslim fanatics burning the poppy, this national symbol of our heroes, and they've been arrested for that. And now I kind of say, well, it depends whose poppy it is and where they're burning it. If they're burning it in the streets, or they're taking poppies from ceremonial areas that have been placed, now there's a property issue there, and there's a public fire issue there. But if they're getting in trouble solely for burning a poppy they own on their own property, I disagree with that. I think they should be able to...
they're burning their own poppy. You've bought a poppy, right? You paid whatever for it, and now you're burning it.
Yeah.
Why don't you just burn your money?
So there's no hypocrisy there for me. I'm not going to say, well, the Grenfell thing doesn't bother me, so it should become... but it's disgusting to burn the poppy, and the people should get in trouble for it. I don't think they should. I think I'll have to have a look at them convictions again for the Muslim men, but I've got a feeling they were doing it in public, and I think they were doing... burning ceremonial wreaths that had been laid at certain spots. But I'll have to double check. But I think you should be able to burn anything you own.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to set fire to my wardrobe tonight because I just feel like it.
And to be fair, I'm not really a fan of symbolic burning. I think it might have been Hitchens that once said, people that burn books are not too far away from wanting to burn people. And I just think it's a bad idea. I don't think it achieves anything.
It's like when you see people burning flags, or like did people burn copies of the Satanic Verse as well?
Oh yeah.
So basically, they went out of their way to buy something, and then they set fire to it. I mean, that's just a waste of money. I mean, you might as well just light up your £20 note and just burn that.
So here's the thing, right? People need to realise there is a multitude of options and emotional states between I am livid, I am angry, to now the police should intervene because I'm that upset and offended. I think you should be outraged, or if you want to be, and offended at this kind of thing. It's when you start to think that everything that's outrageous or offensive or annoying to you is... illegal, and it's not helped by the fact that we have really lent on this idea of hate crime these last several years and hate speech, and the police are prosecuting more and more people for it, and they're starting more campaigns to invite and encourage people to report it. Then you have these special interest groups that are constantly telling us that hate crime's up by so much percent, and hate speech is against a certain community is up by so much percent. So people have it in their vernacular now. It's in their wheelhouse. They know there's a thing called hate speech. They know there's a thing called hate crime. So they're going to filter all their offence and all their anger about something that's meaningful to them, and they're going to say, well, why can't I have some of this hate speech or hate law action from the police? Why can't I report the things I don't like as crime? So I just think people need to stop thinking that everything they don't like should be illegal.
Yeah, I mean, I thought living in 2018, people will be more reluctant to bring in the law when it comes to disputes like this, but apparently not. Are we becoming more sensitive?
Yes, absolutely. I think so. But, I mean, as of now, there have been no convictions for this. I don't know how it's going to progress. It's gone very quiet. But to be fair, I think it's insane that they even got arrested. So I still think that's a step too far. I think if anyone arrests you for burning a cardboard cut out of a building in your back garden, regardless of what it is, I think that's insane. I think that's a sign of a very, very sick society in regards to freedom of expression. So we're keeping an eye on that. I'll see how it goes from there. All right, I think it's time for the ASLAN Awards.
There's this misconception that people derive their values from their scriptures.
Who goes to hell?
Gays, fags, hundreds and hundreds of Jews.
You identify yourself as gay. Why don't you then choose to be a Muslim when it says explicitly in Judeo-Christian tradition that is prohibited?
There's this misconception that people derive their values from their scripture.
The ASLANs.
Now, the ASLAN is an award for an apologist spouting lies and nonsense. And I think my nominee has probably had this honour before. Maybe twice, maybe 3 times. I don't know. Any idea who it might be?
Is it Reza Aslan again?
You know, funnily enough, I don't think Reza's ever won one. I don't recall. I don't think he did ever.
I reckon he has, and our listeners...
If you want to go through several years of taking the myth to figure out whether Reza Aslan actually won an Aslan Award.
Okay, so it's not Reza Aslan. Is it Mehdi Hassan?
It's not Mehdi Hassan. It is an Islamic, Muslimic man, yeah. Round-headed, flappy-mouthed mank, Moshafiq.
What's he done?
Moshafiq. What has he done now? I'm glad you asked, because I don't know if you remember a while back when he won the Aslans for essentially
what did he do?
Propped up blasphemy again. I'm trying to word it in a way that's not angry. He said basically that he doesn't disagree with blasphemy laws in Pakistan. He disagrees with their misapplication.
Oh yes, I remember that. That was on Twitter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he was asked, so what does this mean then? That you support them if they're applied correctly, and then there was no answer.
Yeah, I mean, can you please tell us what's the correct application of blasphemy laws? So obviously, if you're a smart, intelligent, humane individual, the line on blasphemy is, shouldn't exist. You should not be persecuted for blaspheming. It's a ridiculous concept. It's a human right to be able to be part of a religion or not be part of a religion, and to critique a religion without the state locking you up for it.
Well, you know, there are so many Muslim scholars who are blaspheming constantly against other people's faiths and insulting them on TV. You know, how many times have you come across extremist mullahs who say derogatory things about non-Muslims, but, you know, no one says that's what Christianophobic, Judophobic, anti-Semitic, you know, they're never punished for it.
Exactly, and just by identifying yourself as a Muslim, that's blasphemous to some people. Just by identifying as a Christian is blasphemous to some people. So it's a silly concept, and to do away with it protects everybody's right to religion. People don't understand that. It actually protects religious people the most, because they're probably more likely to follow. I mean, look at, case in point, Bibi. She was a Christian, said something derogatory or perceived to be derogatory about Muhammad, you know, several years in a jail cell. So that's where Moshafiq comes in. So he was one of the rare Muslim beasts that didn't miss the story. He wasn't, you know, I don't know what happened. I think every Muslim in Britain went on some sort of away day and missed this story because none of them spoke about it. But Moshafiq had an opinion. So I'll read it from you. This is from his Facebook. It starts with, so here goes. I have just finished reading the full judgment. Fucking liar. He's never read anything full in his life. On the... on the Aisia Bibi blasphemy case, which was announced by the Supreme Court of Pakistan this morning. On the whole, I think it was the right judgment. Okay, so far so good. He thinks her acquittal was the right judgment. So he's doing well.
Yay,
he can be
1 point, Mo.
he can be our friend. If he'd have put a full stop there, we'd be pals.
Yeah, he could have come on taking the myth. 1 point to Mo.
But I think it was the right judgment based on the lack of evidence and the denial by Aisia Bibi. Mo, we were nearly friends. It could have been beautiful. Okay, he continues to put his foot in his mouth.
Oh no.
The serious allegations, so they're serious allegations to him. These allegations of blasphemy are serious allegations, Iram. They have to be substantiated by compelling evidence and beyond reasonable doubt, which this clearly wasn't. legal expert goes on. The witnesses contradicted themselves in evidence to the police and then to the court, therefore reducing their credibility in front of the law. With such holes in the evidence and witnesses, there was only one option open to the courts, and that was to release her and quash the conviction. People, please read the judgment and decide for yourselves why the judgment was correct. Fuck me! Holy shit!
Oh my god.
How is he taking that line? So he's essentially saying, if the witnesses were credible and they could have demonstrated that she was blaspheming, then the jail sentence was just a jail sentence that was leading up to an execution. This is a guy who's on the BBC.
To quote Janice from Friends. Oh my god!
Why is no one asking him about this?
Do you know what I'm sorry, what exactly is the due process when it comes to fucking blasphemy laws, and what evidence would have been proper for her to be convicted of blasphemy and then sentenced to death? I mean, this woman, right, because she was initially, she was on death row. She was going to be executed. So essentially, he's saying that, yeah, if there's evidence against you and you're found guilty of blasphemy, you should be executed. And yeah, he has a show on BBC Radio. He reviews the papers once a week. Now, okay, fine, he's not a staff member of the BBC, but have you noticed how certain people get away with certain political views or religious views? Now, if this had been a right-wing non-Muslim person, I've noticed you can, if you're supposedly left-wing on the BBC and you're anti-Tory, you can get away with spouting that kind of stuff, but if you're on the other side of the spectrum, you can't get away with that, and everyone will be like, oh, why is this person on the BBC? They should be given a platform. Where? This guy is advocating for blasphemy laws.
Yeah, in fairness, I don't know why I feel the need to be fair to this cunt, but he did say a while back that he doesn't agree with the death penalty for blasphemy. I think he agrees with blasphemy laws per se, but I don't think he agrees with the death penalty for it.
So what should happen? What should happen if you're convicted of blasphemy? Because we all know what happens when you're accused of blasphemy in Pakistan.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go to court. People have died. People have been murdered.
People have been murdered on the steps of the court by having rocks thrown at them.
I mean, for fuck's sake, like the previous guy who was defending her, the governor of Punjab, he was shot dead by his own bodyguard.
Oh, and Mo invited the hate preachers who kind of made that happen on a little Muslim mosque tour of the Northwest. Arms round the shoulders, yeah, smiling for photos like a little cunt. So, I'm really not happy with this man. I've walked past him a few times in Manchester, and
did you spit at him?
I gave him the eye a few times. I know he noticed.
Did he notice?
Yeah, he noticed, but he probably just thought, who the fuck's why is he looking at me like that? Hate crime.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. He's probably gonna report that. But I'm gonna microaggression.
If I see him again, I'm gonna speak to him politely and civilly, but I'm gonna ask for some answers from him because this is not acceptable. So he's my contender for the ASLAN Awards. I don't know if you've got one in your back pocket you think could go toe to toe with Mo.
I was thinking of your Twitter debate with Adam Dean, formerly of the Quilliam Foundation, actually.
He's a smarmy one, isn't he?
So you had a Twitter discussion with Adam Dean.
I did, but we're on the topic was circumcision, and I feel like I've been doing a circumcision tour for the last 3 months. And it's one of them things that once you dip your toe in, it kind of follows you around because it angers so many people. And my suggestion...
So you've had enough of penises.
I've had enough of cock. For 2018.
So what is this, a cock block now?
A cock block, yes, I believe so. This one of the videos I filmed and released for the Healthcare and Secularism conference was a talk by a man called Brian Earp. Now he's fantastic. He's an American, very eloquent, very articulate. Sorry, articulate. See what I mean? This is why he is the public speaker and I'm not. So he gave a talk on circumcision, and he tackled it from a lawful perspective. He tackled it from a logical perspective. He tackled it from an ethical perspective. He tackled it from a health perspective. It's a really
tackle.
A lot of tackling of the tackle. Yeah. And he was excellent. He was fantastic, very compelling. And I think people who may be on the fence on this topic might benefit from watching his talk. I must say, though, there are a couple of slides in there that do show still images of the circumcision process on males, not the illegal kind, not the rusty razor blade in North Africa kind of horrendous circumcision, but clinical male circumcision. And it shows you the process, how it's done, what it looks like when everything goes right, and how much is removed, and what the baby's left looking like afterwards. And it's horrendous. I couldn't believe what I was looking at, because I've never seen it before. So I'd recommend you have it. Maybe, is it best to have it before or after lunch? Never quite sure. I mean, if you have it before lunch, it might put you off your lunch, but if you have it after lunch, you might lose your lunch.
I say wait at least 30 minutes after, like, when you go swimming. So wait 30 minutes after eating lunch.
That's the official guidance on watching circumcision slides and our footage. Thank you. Glad we could get that cleaned up. Yeah, so I tweeted this out, and Adam Dean quote tweeted it and responded that it's not an issue. His entire argument boiled down to it's not an issue because very few people are bothered. Very few people who are circumcised seem to be bothered with it. And I'm not seeing his data. I don't know who he's been surveying. I don't know if he's going door to door.
He probably just he just probably unbuttoned his pants, looked down and thought, I'm not bothered.
Nah, that'll do. That's fine. Yeah. Good to go. Yeah, so I mean, as far as I'm concerned, one person annoyed with it's one too many, because it's their genitals, should be their choice. That's the only argument you need. Everything else is irrelevant. It's, did they choose it? No. Did they want it? They say no. Okay, let's stop doing this then, because there are people who don't want it done, and there are lots of ill effects, and it isn't benign, and there's loads of things we can go into. But I would suggest heading over to my YouTube channel and watching them videos for a fuller picture. So I don't know what else there is to talk about. I mean, I did see something which made me chuckle a little bit, and that's the whole editor of Waitrose magazine leaving his job for his comments on vegans. Did you see this?
I did, yeah. Talking about killing vegans, hunting them down in the Waitrose magazine. This is a private email, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're dead easy to catch and hunt down, really, because our iron levels are so low and we don't have the necessary B12, so it's just a case of, you could probably...
Wait, are you veggie or vegan? Either way, I don't like you.
I don't. I flip between the two, so I'm mostly vegan, but I haven't eaten meat for about seven, maybe 8 years. I think it's 7. And I go with long spells of being vegan, but I do a lot of traveling, back and forward, and I have a rule where my health's the most important, so I'll never skip a meal. So if I'm like on a boat somewhere, or I'm down in London, or I'm on the move, if there's a cheese sandwich option, I'm going to have the cheese sandwich. If I'm down the pub with friends and there's no vegan option, I'll have the vegetarian option. So it's kind of like, I'm a vegetarian, I suppose, but I'm like 90% vegan. I don't remember the last time I had milk.
What if you're eating cake, and cake has lots of non-vegan stuff?
I never eat cake. I'm not a confectionery person. I know, that's strange. I'm more of a...
Why do I know you?
Yeah, opposites. Yin and yang, Iram. That's why we work so well.
I will fucking eat anything.
I thought you were going to say, I will fuck you up.
Yeah, that too. Oh my god! So this guy, is he head of Waitrose?
Head, arms, legs, and body. Apparently, no, he's just the editor of the Waitrose
editor of the magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a private email, just coming up with ideas, and he said vegans, how to hunt them down,
yes,
etc.
So
etc.
I'll read the full context here, because Waitrose, if anyone doesn't know, is kind of like a very middle class supermarket, I suppose. And I suppose they'd make quite a bit of money off vegans in that, their hummus and lentil range and shit like that. Because veganism does have a very kind of middle class veneer in a sense, doesn't it? But what happened is somebody, a freelance journalist, contacted him. And she pitched some articles about plant-based meal series, just very nicely saying, how would you consider including some vegan recipes and stuff like that. Because if you're making a food magazine, I think if you are to ignore veganism, you kind of falling behind a little bit there. Anyway, so he replied to this email of hers, and this is the editor of Waitrose magazine, don't forget. He said, "Hi Celine," I assume that's a name, otherwise it'd be weird. "Thanks for this. How about a series on killing vegans one by one? Ways to trap them, how to interrogate them properly, expose their hypocrisy, force feed them meat, make them eat steak and drink red wine."
I spot that.
So, okay.
Vegans.
So I struggle with this, and again, there's two reasons that I struggle with it, I think. And it's nothing to do with me not eating animals, because I'm not bothered about that. I think he's a bit of a dick, but it's a joke in a way. I don't think he really wants to hunt down vegans. I don't think he maybe in that case. So I'm kind of like, one, it was a private email. Two, it was a joke. But my point is, if I was to send an email like that from work, I'd get fired.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like, people always say, "Oh, don't put down in an email that you wouldn't want out in public." But we all do it, really. You know, no one ever writes an email expecting it one day to come out, and it was clearly a joke. I mean, he's not really thinking of killing vegans, you know, no matter how annoying they are. Sorry. I'm vegan phobic, as you can tell.
Yeah, some of them wear it like a religion. I've said this myself, and they can be very unhelpful. And many of them need to decide what they want. Do they want to just shame people, or try and make people think a bit more reasonably? Because I have to say it, vegans are right. I know people don't enjoy hearing that, and that's one of the reasons why people like this editor of Waitrose react so adversely to the vegan message, because it kind of holds a mirror up and people see it as a judgment. But as far as I can see, this girl wasn't being judgmental. She was just pitching an idea, which is what you're told to do when you're a journalist. You're told to pitch. So people get very annoyed with vegans because, one, yes, they can be very sanctimonious and religious-like in their attitudes and holier than thou and very judgmental and all that annoying shit. I keep saying, you know, that it's them type of vegans that make me consider cannibalism. But on the other side of it as well, people don't like it because it's a pretty airtight argument, veganism, in terms of nutrition, in terms of animal welfare and the environment. As far as I can see, if that changes, I'll change my mind and I'll be the first to tuck into a steak.
Is it really that clear cut that being vegan is good for you? I don't think so.
I'm not. So yeah, there are people who peddle the health benefits of veganism, which to me is bollocks. As far as I can see, so you can be a healthy vegan and you can be an unhealthy vegan. You can be a healthy meat eater and you can be an unhealthy meat eater. Depends how much.
Okay, why are you a vegan?
Animal welfare issues and the fact that I don't need to eat meat. So that the nutritional argument from veganism is sound. You can perfectly sustain yourself, get the right amount of nutrients on a vegan plant-based diet. I am never like, see, this is where loads of people are going to turn off because people get bored of this topic, but yeah, the arguments really are, you don't have to, it's not good for animals and it's not good for the environment and it's unsustainable. We're not going to be able to sustain this model for too much longer because of the environmental damage and things like that. So people they're going to need to look at a new way of feeding the planet. And I think it'll be artificial lab-grown meat will just replace the factory farming system. Then vegans can just shut the fuck up and we can all go about our day.
Yeah, shut up.
Would you eat a lab burger?
Yeah, if it tasted good, why not?
There you go. Problem solved. Yeah, so I struggle with this. Personally, I'm like, well, don't fire him. Even though he's having a joke at the expense of one of my own, I'm like, he's clearly a joke. Why is he being fired? Or why is he having to resign, should I say? But then I'm like,
yeah, but come on, like this is what happens all the time. Every time somebody makes a comment, we have to be outraged. We have to go on Twitter, bitch about it, call for this person to be sacked. I mean, it's like a couple of days ago, BBC presenter Andrew Neil said something about an Observer journalist, called her a crazy cat lady. He deleted the tweet. The BBC press office came out and said he's deleted it, he realised it was wrong, he's deleted it. She wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. She kept going on and on and on.
Even wrote her, didn't she?
Yeah, that wasn't slut shaming. Jesus Christ. It's hyperbole like this that means that we can't have a reasonable debate about anything. Meanwhile, people can go around calling anyone who voted for Brexit like a headbanger, a Brextremist,
knuckle dragger,
you know, someone from the sewer, you know, all sorts of horrible comments. But, you know, that's okay because that's quote unquote right. They're morally right to say that. They're on the right side of the argument. But, you know, if you said anything on the opposite side of the debate, then you wouldn't get away with it. No, we're not even happy for just okay, my bad, sorry, let's move on. No, we don't want to move on. We want to really just rinse out that argument. Really, we want to make sure we've talked it to death, argued about it to death, and, you know, flogged someone in public for what they've done, quote unquote, wrong, before we move on. I
mean, it goes back to what we were talking about on the last episode, I think, about Rod Liddell and about the shelf life of internet outrage. People should just have a policy of not, they should make it an open policy, a stated policy. We will not respond to social media outrage.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes social media outrage can lead itself to a new news story, and that kind of just feeds it all again. It's something else to write about, blah, 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 yawn. It's boring.
All right, well, we could either check out the Twitter questions, or if you've got another topic you're desperate to get in.
I say let's go to the questions.
The questions, all right. So people hopefully have been using the hashtag TTMyth.
That sounds like titty myth.
Titty myth. So if you've made it this far into the conversation this week, the hashtag is Titty Myth. So thanks, Iram. Never let us down, do you?
At least it's not bloody AIDS, so...
Don't tempt me. Okay, so Atheist Christmas Colouring Book has asked, can atheists enjoy Christmas? Well, Atheist Christmas Colouring Book, if you go all the way back to the very first 7 episodes of the God the Spell Checker podcast, it's focused entirely on that topic. I speak to non-believers from sort of Mexico, Germany, Scotland, Australia, various other places, and ask them how they celebrate Christmas as a non-believer. So get scrolling is my answer on that one. What else? Did anything jump out at you, or do you want to just choose a random one? Matt B has asked, is Iram a native informer? Yes. What else? Okay, so Michael A. Lowry asks, a recent article in Rolling Stone derided, quote, straight men for shunning astrology. Not astronomy, astrology. That's your star signs, your Taurus, your Cancer, your AIDS. This is essentially asserting that men are better than women at detecting bullshit. How is this...
Well, you've just proved that.
How is this not a bald-faced insult to female scientists and skeptics? Iram, do you read your horoscopes?
Yes.
What is your horoscope?
I'm a Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. Let's have a look. Oh, it says you're going to get AIDS.
Fuck you.
Okay, so I'm going to a website called Accurate Daily Horoscopes. That's a lot of Astro style, it's called. That's a big claim for itself, isn't it? Accurate. So you said you was a Sagittarius. Okay, so Tuesday, November 20th, you're simply oozing glam today, Sagittarius. Adding to your already mysterious and attractive aura. If you don't roll out of bed feeling fabulous, a little pampering will get you there in no time. Dab on your special occasion perfume, buy fresh flowers for your desk, treat yourself to a decadent mocha latte, sneak away on your lunch hour from mani-pedi, or book a hot stone massage after work. This evening, sate the culture vulture within with anything from a raved-about museum exhibit to a foreign film on Netflix.
Or a TTM.
So, out of 10, would you say, how accurate would you say that is, or how does it appeal to you and your sensibilities as a Sagittarius?
Well, I do have an aura of glamour about me, so that is 100% accurate.
Okay.
I did not sneak off on my lunch break to have a mani-pedi.
I think it said you should. So is that something that would appeal to you on a lunch break?
It is. Well, I mean, I'd prefer to eat on my lunch break. But, you know, if I can find like a really well-priced mani-pedi, why not?
So would you give this an A rating for giving you what you need as a Sagittarius? Sagittarian?
Yes, I would. I
actually read out Scorpio. To make an underhanded point. Dun, dun, dun. So that wasn't your horoscope, that was Scorpio. And
yeah, well, I fucking am glamorous, so I don't care.
So the point is, horoscopes are designed around Barnum statements. So these are kind of open-ended questions that appeal to everybody. It's things like, so Iram, you don't trust people easily, but when you do finally trust someone, you let them in fully and wholly and hold them close to your heart. And that pretty much describes everybody. But you say it in a way to make it seem personable and unique, and that's what horoscopes do. None of them say, your child's going to get caught by a child molester today, so watch out for that. You might want to look left before crossing the street because a lorry's coming and it's not looking good for you. To
be fair, like every time I read my horoscopes, it's always telling me, about this guy that's going to come in my life, or about what I need to talk about with my partner. And I have no partner. So who the fuck am I talking to? Who is this partner that I need to have a serious discussion with?
I feel like I should read Sagittarius now just to see if it's more positive.
Well, basically, Michael was trying to make the point,
Yeah, before I completely derailed and distracted from his question.
You just want to read your horoscope now. But basically, Vice, he said, is perpetuating the notion that that men are more capable than women of detecting bullshit. How is this good? But then, he then, in the second part of the question, says, oh, actually, sorry, I just assumed Michael was a he. Michael could be a she. Michael could be gender fluid. So they said, why do so many... Why do many so-called feminists who claim to care about equality insist on finding a gender angle to every disagreement? It's as though this article grew out of the author's frustration at not being able to find a boyfriend who shared her mystical beliefs. That sounds like a contradiction to the first part of the question in a way, really, because it was a bit of a weird article, like why straight men hate astrology so much, but then people jumped on board saying, oh my god, you're basically saying women are stupid.
You're essentially saying that gay men are stupid, though, as well.
That's true.
Because I assume, as well as being fabulous, gay men also have the capacity for logic. So
do they?
I imagine so. I can't, why would being a straight man make you... I mean, it is a compliment in a way.
I've not read the article, though.
I've not read it. I read the headline and I just did what everyone else did. Read the headline and shook my fist and went, "Grrr."
But Michael's point where he/she says, why do so many so-called feminists insist on finding a gender angle to every disagreement? But that's true. Like, everything is either sexist or misogynist. I mean, yesterday, November 19th, was International Men's Day. And so many people were saying, oh, that coincides with World Toilet Day, so we can throw the shit down the toilet. And I think if anyone said that about women, replace that with women and you'd be called a misogynist, but it's okay to hate on men and say you want to flush them down the toilet. I mean, really, if you don't like misogynist language, then why do you like man-hating language as well? Okay, so
here's the thing, and there's a distinction to be made here. Now, I'm a straight white male, okay? So now I'm not a persecuted class in any way. I would never... I mean, if you can be a straight white male, do it. It's bloody wonderful, okay? Now, I'm not a persecuted class in any way. I'm not being oppressed. I would never claim that. However, there is one category of individual where you're allowed to say whatever you want about, and furthermore, you're encouraged to do so. Actually, it seemed progressive. Oh, no, I mean, maybe actually old as well. If I was a straight old white man, that'd be it then. I'd tick all the categories of the basically it's a totem for evil, Western evil now. You can write whatever you want, say whatever you want about straight white males. And nothing happens, obviously, because we don't, we can't be persecuted by this language. We can't be rounded up into a gulag. There's too many of us. But it just seems like if you're going to decide that it's prejudiced and racist and bigoted to derive people of non-white extraction for their their traits and their characteristics or their orientation and things like that. If you're going to say that's wrong and bigoted, I don't understand how you can then try and think you're fighting bigotry and racism by being bigoted and racist to another class of person. So
yeah, but white men are evil. So.
White men are evil, sure. It's just another thing we're good at. So I don't. But you must have noticed this obsession with everything straight white male.
What's wrong with being straight now?
Can we hear from someone who's not a straight white man? It just seems really But what they mean is, can I hear from someone who's not a straight white man who thinks exactly the same as I do? So that's why you get called a native informant, Iram, because you won't say what they want you to say.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? And that's actually quite racist as well. Like, oh, you're writing about your own community like this. Well, sorry, but why are you expecting me to behave in a certain way or have certain opinions or thoughts? That's racist in itself. Why am I expected to behave in a certain way just because of my skin tone?
But this is where you by doing the straight white man stick, this is where you start stoking the fires of nationalism. Because once you start making the straight white man the bogeyman, there's going to be a reaction. People are going to start forming groups around the identity of being white and feeling emboldened. Because
wasn't there a piece in the was it the Times where a group of white men were taking legal action, saying they feel hated and persecuted?
Oh my God! So that's what I mean. It's just. Whenever you start making your argument solely around identity and you play identity politics to this extent, you're going to get a nefarious reaction that's also identity politics, and I don't think you're going to like it. The worst kind of identity politics I can think of is white nationalism. It's the worst thing to rally around.
Why are you hating on white people? Why is brown nationalism good?
Being white, it's not. I think nationalism, depending on what you mean by that, isn't the worst thing in the world. I don't think.
What about patriotism? Is that good?
It depends. Again, it depends on what you're patriotic about. I'm very patriotic in the sense that I live in a democracy. We have a wealth of art and culture and history. And I think...
Because the thing is, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with having a strong national identity, because I think we're partly in a crisis right now because we're not sure what our identity is anymore, and it's constantly being trashed. Like, you can't be proud to be English or... British because we had an empire.
Exactly.
Well, actually, you lot had an empire. I didn't.
It's my. You're not having my empire. So don't dare.
You know what? I want an
empire
too.
Get your hands off my empire.
Yeah.
You made a great point though. Nail on the head. We're constantly told you can't be patriotic. You can't be British. You can't, be too openly proud about being British. You can't celebrate it, etc., etc. People are very self-hating about it. And what do you get? You get these nationalist movements. You get people like Tommy Robinson, who's the seen as the British bulldog in the eyes of the many working class in Britain. So you get a reaction to this kind of shit. And it's dangerous and it's silly, and I think it shouldn't be about who you are. It should be about what you think and how you behave. I don't care if it's coming from a black person or a white person or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian or an atheist. It depends what you're saying. It depends not necessarily what you're saying half the time. It depends what you mean, and there seems no distinction there. People seem very keen to pigeonhole people. And put them in boxes straight away, and the box that is currently overflowing, that no one bothers to empty or check in on, is the straight white male box. I can't just dismiss somebody and say, well, what do you know, you're a Muslim? Whoa, can you imagine? Somebody publicly said that? But people get a round of applause on Question Time for mentioning straight white man. So it's a double standard there that I think people need to think about. You need to think about it, Iram. All right. Did any other questions jump out at you at all?
No.
I think we've pretty much nailed it, and we always forget to tell people to go and check out Sedar. So I don't know if you want to plug the shit out of it now at the end of the episode when no one will listen to it.
Yes, for more common sense articles on religion and social affairs, check out www.sedar.org.
All right, Aaron. Well, I think I might make a break for it before I'm a Celebrity starts. I don't know if you're watching it this year.
No, I've got better things to do in my life.
Me neither. I just thought I don't know why I even said that. So forget it. Edit that out. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Oh my God! Is that what's next in the pipelines for you? You're going to be on I'm a Celebrity. Get me out of it.
I'm not.
But then people will be like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
There isn't anything after Z-list, so I don't think so. I'd have to. I'd have to commit a hate crime or something. Can you imagine? And in the jungle now, Stephen Knight. He smacked around some Christians in Manchester Arndale.
Oh my God. We're not advocating violence, by the way.
No, definitely not in Manchester Arndale.
No.
All right, Iram, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining me.
No problemo.
Catch you later. Thank you for listening to the Godless Spellchecker podcast. The podcast is a one-man operation, produced in my spare time away from my day job, and I love making it for you. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider lending some support. The show is entirely listener supported. I don't sell anything, I don't run ads, and given the alternative and unpopular focus of my content, it's very unlikely to find a sponsor. So there are a number of ways you can support and chip in and help improve the show and give me more time to produce more content. You can become a patron supporter and pledge a monetary amount per month or per episode by visiting patreon.com/gspellchecker. If you can't lend monetary support right now, don't worry, there's other ways you can help the podcast too. You can share it on your various social media networks, or take a moment to leave a review wherever you listen to it. Your support is massively appreciated. Thank you. Think we've all learned something here today?